Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to the explainer. अगर बायोलॉजी कभी ड्राई लगी है ना, तो आज परसेप्शन बिल्कुल चेंज होने वाला है. Because today we are zooming all the way in to look at the absolute foundation of your existence.
So, to start things off, I want to ask you a kind of profound question. Just think about it. Hum zinda kyun hai? Like, what actually makes us living? You're a living, breathing human being, right? But the phone you're probably holding right now is entirely non-living. So what's the magic ingredient? It's the cell. Without it, you're literally just a random collection of atoms. But with it, you're a living, experiencing organism.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We're going to start with the building block concept, then we'll step back to see how we even discovered this microscopic world in the first place. After that, we'll explore the sheer diversity of cells, take a peek inside their actual structures, and finally, we'll decode exactly how the cellular transport system works.
Let's move to section 1, the building block concept, and see how this all builds up.
You know how they say, ek brick se ghar banta hai? If you want to build your dream house, the fundamental unit is just a single brick. Well, biology works exactly the same way. Cells are the bricks. Billions of these cells join together to form tissues. Then those tissues combine into organs, the organs form an entire system, and the whole shebang beautifully creates you. And that is exactly why the cell is known as our fundamental structural unit.
Moving on to section 2, discovering the microscopic world. Let's travel back in time a bit, maybe even thinking back to the boiling waters of Puga Valley, where some hypothesize life might have first kicked off.
But humanity's actual discovery of the cell is surprisingly recent. Back in 1665, Robert Hooke looked at a piece of tree cork under a super basic self-designed microscope and saw these empty compartments. He called them cells, but those were actually dead. Fast forward to 1674, and Anton van Leeuwenhoek finally spots living, moving cells in pond water. Then by 1831, Robert Brown zoomed in even further to find the nucleus, basically the brain of the cell. And soon after that, Purkinje coined the term protoplasm for the living fluid inside.
All of this led to a massive breakthrough. Rudolf Virchow stated this absolute core truth of cell theory. All cells arise from pre-existing cells. MATLAB, cells don't just magically appear out of nowhere. They divide and they multiply to create new life. They're essentially these tiny, self-replicating factories that just keep you growing.
Which brings us to section 3, the diversity in the cell universe. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer variety we're talking about.
So on one side, you have unicellular organisms. These guys fly completely solo, like they are single, maybe just like some of you watching. An amoeba or a bacteria is just one single cell doing absolutely everything. Kana, chalna, reproduce karna, all by itself. But on the other side, you have multicellular organisms, like us humans. We have billions and trillions of cells, all working together as this massive, specialized team.
And the extremes in this world are just crazy. Globally, the smallest cell is mycoplasma, while the largest is actually an ostrich egg. But check out the longest cell, the neuron. Think about it. When you do something wrong and your dad gives you a sudden chanteya, a slap on the face, it's this incredibly long neuron that instantly fires that pain signal from your cheek straight to your brain.
Okay, let's open the doors and zoom into section 4, inside the cell structure. Let's see what actually makes it tick.
So every cell has this outermost boundary called the plasma membrane. You can literally think of this as the ultimate VIP bouncer of a club. It's selectively permeable, meaning the bouncer only lets the good stuff in, like nutrients, and kicks the bad elements and waste right out. And according to the fluid mosaic model, it isn't just some stiff wall. It's actually flexible, flowing, and dotted all over with lipids and proteins.
Now, plants, bacteria, and fungi actually have an extra protective layer outside that membrane, known as the cell wall. It acts just like parents protecting their kids. Plant walls use cellulose, bacteria use peptidoglycan, and fungi use chitin. Feel free to shout these out and memorize them with me. Since these organisms can't exactly get up and run away from danger, this rigid wall is their absolute ultimate defense against the harsh environment.
So the crucial point is, if you strip away that outer cell wall, everything left inside, the cytoplasm jelly, the nucleus, all of it, is collectively called the protoplasm. You will biological jellyhead where all the real living magic actually happens.
Finally, we're at section 5, the cellular transport system. Let's look at how the cell actually breathes, drinks, and eats.
Cells move water back and forth via osmosis, and the easiest way to understand this? The classic kishmish, or raisin experiment. If you soak a dried raisin in plain water overnight, the water rushes in, making it swell up. That's a hypotonic solution. But if you take a plump kishmish and put it in heavy sugar syrup, the water rushes out, completely shrinking it. That's hypertonic. And if it just stays unchanged, well, that's isotonic. You should totally try that at home.
Now, osmosis just happens naturally. But sometimes a cell actually has to force things against the natural flow, and this is called active transport. For this kind of heavy lifting, the cell basically has to spend money, and its currency? ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. It literally spends its ATP energy to get the hard work done.
And this brilliantly illustrates how a single-celled organism eats through a process called endocytosis. Picture this. An amoeba senses food nearby. Because its membrane is so flexible, it actively extends these false feet completely around the particle, engulfing it. It burns up its ATP energy to trap and digest that food from its environment. It's just pure survival in action.
We've zoomed from a brick house all the way down to a hunting amoeba today. But take a second to really think about this. As you sit here watching this explainer, are you aware of the trillions of tiny, breathing factories operating perfectly inside you right now? Burning ATP, dividing, surviving, just to keep you aware and watching? The microscopic universe inside your own body is just as vast and incredible as the one outside. Thank you so much for focusing in with us today, and keep that curiosity alive.